At the school beauty's birthday party, my boyfriend took advantage of my inattention and slapped me into the cake with one palm. Before I could even come to my senses, I heard my boyfriend smiling flamboyantly at the school beauty. "How about it? I've fulfilled your birthday wish for you, haven't I?" My boyfriend even barked his big teeth and handed me a towel, seemingly praising me. "Just kidding, you definitely can't afford to play around." I grabbed his hand and, before he could react, gave him a shoulder throw. "I've given you so many smiles. Have you forgotten that I'm a black belt in Taekwondo?" My nose tip was filled with the greasy smell of cream, my eyes suddenly turned white, and the surrounding environment fell silent in an instant. The tingling sensation coming from the back of my head made me realize that it was Asher who had slapped me into the cake. Before I could come to my senses, I heard Asher Zhangyang's laughter coming from the quiet surroundings. His voice was directed towards the school beauty. "How about it? Have I fulfilled your birthday wish for you?" As Asher Shin's voice fell, the tense atmosphere instantly dissipated, and everyone burst into laughter as if what had just happened was just a trivial matter. I slowly raised my head, my eyes smeared with cream, making it hard for me to see the expressions of the people around me. But the faint murmurs still reached my ears. "I bet right. Asher Shin will indeed push Clara Wong into the cake. Remember to transfer the money to me in the group. As expected, whatever Maisie Lin wants, Asher Shin will satisfy her." Damn it. On Valentine's Day in the group, Maisie Lin asked Asher Shin to spend it with her, but Asher Shin didn't agree. At that time I even lost the bet, thinking Asher Shin had reformed. Valentine's Day. Asher Shin had a car accident that day. For a moment a ridiculous thought occurred to me. What kind of plot is this? There's a group with these people. Every day in the group they watch what Maisie Lin wants Asher Shin to do and then make a bet. Just as I was struggling to digest these words, Asher Shin handed me a towel beside me, his voice soft and gentle without the slightest sense of guilt, even more light-hearted. "Just kidding, you're definitely not someone who can't afford to play around." Without a word, I coldly took the towel and wiped the cream off my face hard. My original makeup was also smudged, making me look even more disheveled. Maisie Lin, dressed in a white dress, sat gently beside me, giving me a very embarrassed expression. "Asher has always been casual in his actions since he was a child. Don't mind. It's only because of my birthday that he behaves like this." Although her expression looked so sincere, I could keenly sense a hint of arrogance in her tone. Asher Shin and Maisie Lin were childhood sweethearts and even had a crush on Maisie Lin for many years. Unfortunately, Maisie Lin was indifferent to his confession and only said they were good friends. This was what I heard after I got together with Asher Shin. At first I didn't pay much attention to it. But later, because of Maisie Lin, I had many arguments with Asher Shin, but he always said I was being unreasonable. It was Asher Shin who kept pestering me to come to Maisie Lin's birthday party today, saying that Maisie Lin was his good friend and hoped that I could let go of my grudges. Before this we had just had a quarrel, but I didn't want to part with Asher Shin. I just walked down this step thinking that he was really reflecting. It turned out that it was because I was asked to play this clown. The belated awakening, coupled with the accumulated resentment, can no longer be endured at this moment. I clenched my fists tightly. Just as Asher Shin's hand was about to rest on my shoulder, I grabbed his hand with a sharp look and threw him over the shoulder in the blink of an eye. Asher Shin's body landed heavily on the ground with a dull thud. The laughter instantly ceased and countless astonished glances turned to me. Asher lay on the ground in a sorry state. Due to the pain in his body, his expression was distorted, but he still held back from crying out. I picked up the rag on the table, wiped my hands and casually threw it on Asher Shin. "Asher Shin, I've given you too many smiles, haven't I? Dare to fight with me? I've told you before that I've practiced. Don't play some jokes on me that I don't like." When I threw Asher over my shoulder, Maisie Lin stood up in astonishment, frowning and looking at me in disbelief with contempt in her eyes. "How could you do this? Asher just likes to crack some jokes. Why did you hit him?" I spread my hands and shrugged my shoulders. "I was just joking to cheer you up. Don't you think it's funny that he's lying on the ground like a big monkey? I gave you a birthday present. Why are you still angry? Asher Shin even made a joke about me as a birthday present for you. My girlfriend should follow suit too." For a moment, everyone's faces turned a riot of colors. Maisie Lin seemed to be startled by my nonsense. Her mouth opened and closed, but she couldn't say a word. Suddenly, a puff laugh came from the corner. I subconsciously followed the sound and looked over. It was Owen Han. Owen Han had a mischievous look on his face. He looked at me and raised his eyebrows with a smile. Exactly, Maisie Lin, shouldn't you thank him? Besides, Ashershin didn't say anything. Why would you, an outsider, stand up for him? You're actually speaking up for me? Ashershin on the ground had an ashen face and his eyes seemed to be brewing a storm. I looked indifferent and spoke in a very sharp tone. What? Can't take a joke and want to break up? After learning that Ashershin and Maisie Lin treated me like a monkey, I no longer had any lingering feelings for Ashershin. Perhaps not expecting me to be so straightforward, Asher paused for a moment, then sat up with his teeth bare on the floor, his face so gloomy that it could drip ink. Just kidding. It's nothing. There's no need to hit it so hard. I tugged at the corner of my mouth but said nothing. So he still cares about his reputation. But I had already made up my mind to break up with Asher completely after the party. Thanks to everyone's efforts, the atmosphere finally became lively again. However, beneath the laughter and joy, there were hidden surging waves. I don't know who suggested playing truth or dare. Before I could react, a card was stuffed into my hand. The turntable on the table started spinning quickly, and the first point it pointed to was Maisie Lin. Owen Han initiated a candid with Maisie Lin. Is there any boy here that you like? I don't know why, but when he was clearly asking Maisie Lin, his eyes casually drifted towards me. I clearly felt Asher sitting up straight beside me, his eyes fixed tightly on Maisie Lin, completely disregarding my feelings as his official girlfriend. Maisie Lin's smile remained unchanged. She scanned around and clearly paused for a moment on Ashershin, then gave a charming smile. There. The cheers and jeers filled the entire private room, and I could even faintly hear the words, Ashershin. After hearing Maisie Lin's answer, Ashershin's expression instantly relaxed, and his eyebrows and eyes lifted. I looked at Ashershin with amazement. It turned out that Ashershin was truly in love like this. Probably because I had been staring at him all the time, Asher solemnly clenched his fist to his mouth and coughed, trying to cover it up. Who do you think little Maisie would like? That's enough. The smile in her eyes can't be concealed, yet she still asks this question hypocritically. The wheel spun again. This time it was Owen Han's turn. He chose big adventure and said, give a kiss to one of the opposite sexes present. Immediately, everyone's eyes sparkled with gossip. Someone pushed Owen Han as if watching a play. Hurry up, hurry up. You can't afford to play. I was idly waving the wine glass in my hand when in the next second, Owen Han actually walked towards me, bent down to face me, quickly took my hand, gave me a cursory kiss and then let go. After doing all this, Owen Han looked straight at me and blinked his eyes with a charming smile and a deep voice. Hope you don't mind. Before I could react, Ashershin suddenly stood up and pushed Owen Han away with all his might. His reaction was even stronger than mine and he spoke with a warning tone. What are you doing? What do you mean? Is this something you can touch? Is your tutor taking advantage of someone's danger? Owen Han stepped back and tilted his head, his meaning unclear. At least I'm not looking at the pot while eating from the bowl. I'm a bit confused about Owen Han's behavior. We don't have much interaction. When we meet it's just a polite nod to each other. Is it Ashershin's behavior that has aroused the wrath of both heaven and people, and Owen Han, brimming with a sense of justice, stands up for me? Seeing this situation, someone immediately came out to joke. The palace is not convinced at all. Owen Han, you didn't act lightly. My expression had been rather pale all along. At first I was a little surprised by Owen Han's actions, but soon I was in tune with myself. But in the following game, Ashershin's expression was never good. Just as I was watching them play intently, he spoke coldly. Why didn't you dodge just now? For a moment, I didn't figure out what kind of mentality he had in mind to ask such a question. I looked at him, my voice neither too fast nor too slow, each word taken its own place, bringing up the old story again. I can't avoid it. Just like you pushed me into the cake just now, I can't avoid it. It was just a joke. I'm quite good at it. Besides Owen Han's good looks, I'm not at a loss. Ashershin's expression froze, his face filled with disbelief and anger. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but perhaps my words made him feel a bit at a loss as well. His mouth opened and closed a few times and he simply turned his head away and said no more. Just as the game was coming to an end, the wheel slowly pointed at Asher. Find someone of the opposite sex to kiss. It can't be a girlfriend. The person who said this was sitting beside Maisie Lynn. I could clearly see Maisie Lynn nudging her with her elbow after she finished speaking in front of this person. For a moment, everyone's expressions were different, but Maisie Lynn, the instigator, remained as still as a mountain, as if all of this had nothing to do with her. I thought Asher would happily walk towards Maisie Lynn, but to my surprise he didn't act immediately. Instead he stared at me in an ambiguous way. Don't you want to say something, girlfriend? Asher's voice was very soft, only enough for the two of us to hear. Judging from what I knew about him, the sarcastic words, girlfriend, at the end clearly indicated that he still cared about Owen Han's actions and what I said just now. Usually I would think Asher's behavior was jealousy and secretly rejoice in my heart. But after seeing him constantly shuttling between me and Maisie Lynn, even using me as a tool for their flirting, I just felt that the face in front of me was extremely disgusting. I really don't know what kind of strong mentality he must have to be qualified to be sarcastic to me. I silently leaned back, distancing myself from Asher. I know he wants me to express that I care a lot, but I don't want things to go as he wishes. Why do I always have to go along with his wishes? I turned my head to face everyone, smiling and muttering, this level of measure is okay. Don't worry about me. The next second after the crowd's cheers and commotion, my wrist was instantly clenched very tightly by Asher, almost as if I were gritting my teeth and making a sound. Clara King, you can do it. You said this. Don't go back and make a fuss with me. Pretending to be magnanimous is fine, but don't be unable to bear the consequences. Having said that, he shook off my hand and walked towards Maisie Lynn. Asher bent down with his back to me and gently lifted Maisie Lynn's chin, as if treating a fragile treasure. Under the dim yellow light, before I could make out how Asher was moving, I suddenly heard a burst of exclamations, which brought the gathering to a climax. I clearly told myself not to care about a bad guy like Asher and was prepared for his actions, but just then an uncontrollable throbbing pain still came from my heart. Looking at the noisy scene surrounding the two of us, my eyes felt a little warm. I hurriedly picked up the drink in my hand, shifted my gaze, pretended not to care and quickly wiped the corner of my eye with my hand. After I finished all this, I immediately turned my head and put on a calm expression, not wanting to be the laughingstock of tonight again. All of this will soon come to an end. Asher returned to his seat. There was no shyness on his face like Maisie Lynn's. Instead he sized me up from top to bottom. After a while Asher's lips curved slightly, revealing a mocking smile. His tone was determined to win. King Clara, can't you afford to play? Why are you crying? My body stiffened all of a sudden, and a sense of humiliation slowly spread throughout my body. I clutched the cup on the table tightly, looking for a support point. Asher is very smart. If he wants to make someone happy, he will have all kinds of ways to make you feel that you are in his heart and only have eyes for you. It's very simple for him to make someone unhappy just like it is now. So he knows everything, understands my current embarrassment and pretense, but still wants to expose it as if in this way he can turn the tables. Is this the attitude towards someone you like? I have never seen him treat Maisie Lynn like this. Is it because Maisie Lynn was what he couldn't have and I pursued him on my own initiative that I deserve to suffer such groundless malice from him? Then such affection is just too hard. I told Asher a long time ago, don't make it so hard for me to like you because I can't endure hardship and I'll let go soon. The words that had been intended to be held back until the end blurted out at this very moment. I looked at Asher with nothing in my eyes and murmured, Asher, we're done for. Asher's expression didn't change at all. It seemed that my saying break up was as ordinary to him as having dinner today, not causing him the slightest stir. Clara Wong, I just said don't pretend to be magnanimous. Now you're making such a gesture? Asher thinks that no matter what I can't get rid of him, so is this breakup also like a tantrum? I was just lucky. Asher, is it interesting to bet on me in the group? The next second, Asher's leisurely expression froze. He looked at me in astonishment, a flash of guilt and panic in his eyes, but still stubbornly said, what did you say? Did you listen to someone else's nonsense? I'm a bit reluctant to continue the conversation. If you don't want others to find out that you've done such a thing, don't do it in the first place. Once you do it, don't be stubborn. Let's just call it a day. Having said that, I got up and was about to leave. The party was coming to an end and there was no need to stay any longer. I had just turned around when Ashershin strode forward to block my way. It was rare for him to have some emotional ups and downs. He looked very conflicted and stammered a few words. I'm sorry. This isn't what you think. Can I apologize to you now? I'm a bit confused about Ashershin's behavior. After the breakup, if you want to pursue Maisie Lynn, just go after it, or do you two prefer to have me in between for fun? Sorry, I don't like it. Ashershin, who was still a bit apologetic at first upon hearing my words, looked as if he had grabbed my little braid and put on an air as if I knew it. Clara Wong, you're still close to Maisie Lynn because of me. I've told you many times that Maisie Lynn is my good friend. Here he comes again, the same words. I didn't even need to listen to know what he was going to say next. I just lifted my foot and left. Ashershin was about to stop me again. Owen Han suddenly jumped out from somewhere and stood in front of me, smiling and murmuring, Ashershin, isn't it a bit nice to be so tugging at a single girl? Ashershin's face darkened instantly. She's my girlfriend. Owen Han remained indifferent. Really? Then go and treat your ears. I even heard her say she's breaking up with you. You can't hear her. Owen Han's voice was not low. For a moment all the people still here turned to look. Maisie Lynn rushed over in a hurry and stood beside Ashershin, looking worried. Could it be that Claire misunderstood because of me? You two had a quarrel just now. We were just playing a game. Ashershin didn't reply. He stared fixedly at Owen Han. The two of them were on the edge of their hands. What does our matter have to do with you? A dog taking advantage of a mouse to meddle in other people's business. Owen Han huckled softly. How come it doesn't matter? I'm Clara Wong's suitor. How about you? Didn't you just kiss someone? Saying that, he raised an eyebrow to signal Maisie Lynn. Looking back on that day, I still feel confused. Ashershin's violent assault on Owen Han left me puzzled. I thought Owen Han was just joking that day, but I never expected that he would really pursue me with all his might, coming up with new tricks every day. In the restaurant, I looked at Owen Han, who was actively serving me dishes, and I raised a long-hidden question. Why are you pursuing me? Owen Han raised his eyes to look at me. His movements didn't stop and he didn't feel offended. Instead, he curled the corner of his mouth. Clara Wong, your memory is still so bad. You hit me a lot when you were in primary school, right? I looked up at Owen Han in astonishment, and in an instant my memory was pulled back to that summer. Because I had too much energy, I was sent to practice boxing when I was in primary school. As a result, I have only been beaten by others since I grew up. The one who got beaten the most was the little boy next door because he always let his dog scare me. But that little boy is clearly a chubby guy. I paused for a moment at a loss for words and stammered out, You've lost quite a lot of weight. Owen raised his eyebrows slightly. I recognized you at first glance. Didn't you say when you were a kid that you would find a tough boyfriend in the future? I'm much more tough now than I was back then. My expression froze immediately, as if I were going back to my childhood to tell myself to be cautious with my words and deeds and not to speak rashly. I chuckled and nervously rubbed my fingers. Hey, are you serious? Owen Han, seeing my tense posture, didn't even eat. He propped his chin up with one hand and looked at me, giving me a light and cheerful sneer. Don't be nervous. If you promise me now, I'm not ready either. Saying it now means you want me not to refuse and give me a chance? Alright, go ahead and eat. The dishes have gone cold. I let out a soft breath, but then my thoughts became tangled again. Could it be that I was too harsh when I was a child and have been remembered for so many years? I quietly raised my eyes to look at Owen Han, but to my surprise, I immediately met his smiling gaze. I was so frightened that I hurriedly lowered my head, my eyes wandering, almost burying my head in the rice. Suddenly, Owen Han reached out and lifted the loose hair by my ear, letting out a hoarse, soft laugh. My head was lowered even lower, my face was warm, and for no reason at all, the direction of the surrounding atmosphere seemed a bit off. After finishing the whole meal, I still felt that I couldn't enjoy it. Owen Han's gaze was too intense, which made me a little flustered. However, the dinner was rather harmonious. Just as we were about to leave, Ashershin suddenly rushed out, staring at me with a sullen look on his face. I was so scared that I subconsciously took a step back. Ashershin's face turned even darker. As soon as Ashershin opened his mouth, His tone was very sharp, as if he were catching his mistress in the act. Clara Wong, what are you doing? Why didn't you tell me when you came out for dinner alone with him? I noticed that Asher Shin was carrying a box of chestnut cakes in his hand. It was from my favorite store. We've already broken up. There's no need to inform you, right? The words break up clearly touched Asher Shin's nerve. He grabbed my wrist tightly, so tight that it hurt. There was an uncontainable anger in his eyes. When did I agree? It was you who took the initiative to pursue me back then. Now you just want to break up. Asher Shin's persistent pestering really annoyed me. His tone wasn't very nice either. So what do you want? I'm too lazy to bring up the past for what you did. That doesn't mean I forgive you. Wouldn't it be just right to break up? Then you won't need an excuse to find Maisie Lin. Speaking of this, it reminds me of all the past. Every time I needed him, Maisie Lin needed him too. His first choice was never me. At that time I was still blind and deaf, waiting for his explanation. All I got was a heart full of grievances. Just like on Valentine's Day, actually Asher Shin had told me at first that he was too busy. Later the hospital called and asked me to come and take care of him. I also saw him holding a box in his hand. When he woke up I asked him expectantly who that box was for. When Asher Shin said it was for me, my heart was as brilliant as a burst of fireworks. So much so that I didn't notice Asher Shin's subtle expression at that time. I wonder if Asher Shin also found it rather ridiculous when he saw me being overly sentimental. Thinking of this, I raised my hand to take off the necklace around my neck and handed it to Asher Shin. My eyes were indifferent and my tone calm. Here it is for you. I thought it was for me at that time. If you are not satisfied, I will buy a new one for you later. Asher Shin held the necklace tightly, finally realizing that I was serious and not throwing a tantrum. His whole body seemed to have crashed. You keep saying you like me, don't you? Is your affection so shallow? Or have you fallen for Owen Han? My heart turned cold for a moment. If my affection for someone is just superficial, then Asher Shin probably doesn't really like me, does he? The simple me, during the period when I was pursuing him, tried every day to run into him by chance and tried hard to find topics to talk about just to have a few more words with him. After we got together, I sent him breakfast every day. Whenever he said a word, I would be there at any time without complaint. Is that what I got in return? I'm too lazy to get entangled with Asher Shin any longer. I might as well break off all ties with him. Even if I do, does that have anything to do with you? Asher Shin, don't meddle in other people's business. I'll save your face. Please don't take it. Asher Shin's brows were tightly knitted as if he didn't want to understand me, trying to ease the tension. I know it's because of Maisie Lin. Well, I'll keep my distance from her from now on. Does that mean he knew it earlier? What did you do that morning? I didn't want to waste any more words with him. I pulled Owen Han and left directly, not even glancing at Asher Shin. Asher Shin was eventually enraged by my action. Behind him came Asher Shin's furious roar. Clara, don't regret it. I'm giving you a way out. If you don't do it now, it will be gone in the future. I find it funny. Is this called a step? My relationship with Owen Han is getting better and better. Unlike Asher Shin, I feel that I'm truly being cared for in my hands. I don't have to worry about my shortcomings but just be my true self. At this moment, Owen Han said he would take me to the racetrack for some fun. I haven't been there for a long time either. Without a word I agreed. Can only be said that enemies meet by chance. I never expected to run into Maisie Lin and Asher Shin and their group here. However, things were a bit different before. The status of the two seemed to be reversed. Asher Shin, who was usually extremely attentive, now had a calm expression on his face, while Maisie Lin was constantly looking for topics to talk about. Just as I was about to turn around and pretend not to see, I met Asher Shin's instantly shining eyes. Asher Shin walked quickly towards me. In the next second, Owen Han put his hand around my waist, looking extremely close. I raised my eyes to glance at Owen Han. Owen Han slightly lifted his chin, his eyes brimming with naivety and a competitive spirit. I remained silent, my lips slightly curved. Asher Shin walked over and saw this scene. The light in his eyes dimmed as if he wanted to lose his temper but held it back. Why are you here? Do you want to have some fun? I can take you for a few laps. Before I could say anything, Maisie Lin, who was right behind, immediately chimed in. Yes, Asher is very skilled. But Clara, have you never played car racing? You're fine like this. Asher even said I was too bold before. Maisie Lin's words were veiled, but I could also sense the malice hidden underground. I looked at Maisie Lynn, my eyes sharp and my tone casual. Unfortunately, I can too. What? Do you want to have a match with me? Maisie Lynn's expression froze. It seemed she hadn't expected me to be so straightforward. She glanced at Ashershin slowly and said, "Oh no, I've been practicing for quite a while." I crossed my arms over my chest, shrugged my shoulders and spoke in a relaxed tone. "It's just for fun." "What? Are you still worried that I'll win?" After hearing my words, Maisie Lynn raised her eyebrows slightly and her smile remained unchanged. "Alright, let's have some fun then." Ashershin tugged at me and said, "The Maisie Lindsay car is quite powerful. Can you do it? I haven't even heard you mention it." I gave him a sidelong glance. "It's your fault for not taking my words to heart." The warm-up of the racing car was soon filled with the roar of the engine on the track, making it impossible to hear any other sounds. After Maisie Lynn and I came out, the people who came with Ashershin immediately cheered and screamed in unison. Maisie Lynn stood beside me, shedding her pretense in front of others. Her provocation couldn't be concealed. "The cars on the field are hard to break. You'd better be careful." I held the helmet, raised my eyebrows and my smile remained unchanged. "This is for you too." As the flag fell, Maisie Lynn's car rushed out quickly. I followed closely behind and stepped hard on the accelerator. The loud engine noise sent my adrenaline surging, and the cheers from the surroundings made my scalp tingle. After 2 laps, Maisie Lynn and I were almost neck and neck. When approaching the curve, I held the steering wheel tightly, ready to overtake. The next second, Maisie Lynn's car came into my view. I frowned and quickly understood Maisie Lynn's intention. If I don't slow down, I'm bound to collide with Maisie Lynn, and I'm very likely to be the one who gets knocked off the track. But if you slow down, there will be no chance to turn the tables. Under the thrill of this speed, I didn't choose to back down. Instead, I stepped on the accelerator to the floor. I haven't experienced this feeling for a long time. I bet right. I curled the corners of my mouth and watched as the rear of the car brushed past Maisie Lynn's front. Maisie Lynn looked at me in astonishment, so much so that she didn't have time to adjust the front of the car and crashed hard off the track. When I stopped the car leisurely, Maisie Lynn was surrounded by people offering care. Owen Han looked at me with a smile on his face. "How's it going? Have you vented?" I scratched my head, feeling a bit embarrassed. Breaking up with Ashershin still caused me some distress. And these emotions cannot disappear just by self-regulation. It's like telling yourself not to be nervous during an exam is of no use. I didn't expect Owen Han to notice my state. I wrinkled my nose and stuck out my tongue. "All right." Just then, people who were standing up for Maisie Lynn surrounded her, filled with righteous indignation. "King Claire, you are too competitive. Maisie Lynn's head has been hurt." Looking at this person who was inexplicably criticizing me, I felt speechless. "Did you watch the game? She was distracted and bumped into it. What does it have to do with me?" Ashershin stood by in silence. Maisie Lynn, the person involved, walked over with a weak look on her face. "Forget it. It's my problem. Forget it. I'm so compromising. Is it because I'm afraid others won't misunderstand?" Sure enough, that person immediately looked at me with the same eyes as if I were looking at a vicious person, then turned to Ashershin and shouted, "Ashershin, you just watched Maisie Lynn being bullied by your ex-girlfriend? Did your ex-girlfriend do it because you targeted Maisie Lynn?" Ashershin frowned upon hearing this and retorted, "Don't talk nonsense." But that was clearly what he thought in his eyes. Sure enough, you can't be a sycophant randomly. When you really don't do it, no one will believe you. I raised my chin and retorted, "So you are now so defending Maisie Lynn. Do you like Maisie Lynn?" That popular person blushed and had a thick neck, pointing at me with her finger. "Am I wrong? You just love but can't have it and your mind is distorted." I stepped forward and grabbed his finger, pulling it back. "Didn't your parents tell you that pointing at people with your finger is very impolite?" I wasn't fine yet when that person let out a whining like slaughtering a pig. Ashershin immediately stepped forward to stop me. "Clara King. Calm down." I looked at Ashershin and let go of my hand. "Ashershin, don't be so self-deluded. If I had known that Maisie Lynn's collision led to such a misunderstanding between you two, I would definitely have made way for her. Besides, it's really disgusting for you to set up a WeChat group with Maisie Lynn to flirt. I can't handle this." All the people in that group were from Ashershin's circle, but some of those who came today weren't. Hearing this, my eyes lit up. After the breakup, I also investigated that group. It's truly a case of birds of a feather flock together. Asher Shin and Maisie Lin both looked rather pale. I originally thought that let bygones be bygones, but some people just don't want to do so. I crossed my arms and placed them in front of my chest, looking at Asher Shin with a mocking expression. Why don't you say anything? The others in the group are calling Maisie Lin's sister-in-law, very happily, aren't they? I haven't seen you refute either. Why are you still sending red envelopes? Or do you have an elder brother and Maisie Lin can be considered your sister-in-law too? Then I looked at Maisie Lin. Maisie Lin, didn't you say you didn't like Asher Shin? Then does this count as sexual harassment of you? Does it require civil mediation? The two faces turned pale and blue alternately, and I felt a sense of revenge. Maisie Lin still stubbornly refused to admit it. Clara Wong, how could you slander someone? I know you've always cared that I got along well with Asher. At worst, I'll stay away from you guys in the future. Why do you say so? Maisie Lin would always act like a victim. I rushed over to argue. Owen Han, who was standing by, grabbed me and looked at Maisie Lin calmly. There will always be traces of what you have done and said. It's not hard to find. What you want will be seen soon. Besides, Clara Wong is single now. Don't say anything about you too. As soon as the words were spoken, Owen Han gently patted me on the shoulder and led me away. As we left, he slightly bent down and leaned close to my ear. Everyone will be able to see those chat records tomorrow. I raised my head to look at him. Owen Han's expression was no different, and there was a hint of slyness. A warm current welled up in my heart. I stopped, turned around and faced that group of people, raising my voice. Who said I'm single? My boyfriend is him. After saying that, I held Owen Han's hand, raised it and waved it at them. Owen Han looked at me in surprise, with stars almost falling out of his eyes. He seemed to want to laugh but was trying hard to hold it back. With a trembling voice, he tentatively asked me, "Are you serious?" I pursed my lips, seemingly indifferent, but there was a smile in my eyes. You can hope it's not serious too. Owen Han held my hand tightly and said no more. After a long while, I heard a muffled laugh coming from behind me. What a simpleton. Just as Owen Han said, the next day, chat records of Asher Shin and that temporary group were flying all over the campus. I didn't expect Owen Han to move so fast, and the reaction from everyone was also very intense. Just as I was about to walk back to the dormitory, Maisie Lin, looking haggard, stopped me. This time there was no longer any pretense on her face as before. She looked at me with hatred, grinding her teeth. Clara Wong, is it interesting for you to stir up public opinion to deal with me? Leave some leeway in life and don't go too far. One day these words would actually come out of Maisie Lin's mouth. I sneered twice. Did someone force you to say those words in the record? Did someone force you to ask Asher Shin to accompany you on Valentine's Day? Or did someone force you to ask Asher Shin to drink with you? Maisie Lin, why didn't you know to leave some room for others back then? Now that you've been backfired, do you know? Maisie Lin's face was ashen and her hands were tightly clasped. In the end, it's because Asher Shin doesn't like you. I held out a finger and shook it. Wrong, Asher Shin, I'll join in too. To put it bluntly, I just can't stand seeing you two act as if nothing happened. It's just that I'm not doing well alone. If you don't want to accept it, then let's all accept it together. That's where we are. The next second, Maisie Lin looked behind me with a triumphant expression. Have you seen through her now? I turned my head. It was Asher Shin. I didn't feel the least bit guilty of being caught. Instead, I raised my chin, glanced sideways at Asher Shin, and then averted my gaze. Asher Shin's expression was hard to describe. He stared at me intently and asked an irrelevant question. Are you really with Owen Han? I crossed my arms, showing a resistant attitude. What? Wasn't what I said that day clear enough? Asher Shin took a step forward, his eyes dark and his tone obscure. Aren't you really sulking? We can start over. Things you don't like. I'll change. Asher Shin said these words with great difficulty, his eyes full of unease. For someone like him, it was no different from giving in to me with his arrogant self-esteem. So at this moment, I also understood Asher Shin's awkward intention of making peace. I slowly realized that right in front of me was Asher Shin's favorite, whom I had never been able to get before. But my heart was completely undisturbed. At that moment when I looked at Asher Shin again, I was absolutely certain that I had truly let go. I smiled very openly. Assertion liking something can't be forced. I didn't understand it before and neither do you now. Just as I was turning to leave, Assertion hurriedly spoke up. I didn't kiss Maisie Lynn that day. Oh, but I recently got to know Owen Han. Before leaving, I heard Maisie Lynn's furious voice. It was the first time I had heard her talk to Assertion like this. What are you doing? You're saying unimportant things. Why didn't you tell her to delete those things? Do you know how much it affected me? It turns out that it was because of the damage to one's own fundamental interests that one was so furious. Assertion Bunai's voice followed closely behind. I've already sent it. What's the point of deleting it now? Don't bother me. This kind of conversation is the first time I've heard of. It turns out that the relationship between the two of them is just so fragile. The incident escalated further. Maisie Lynn insisted on coming out to clarify the situation, but was exposed for counterfeiting again. The little support she had left was all reduced to abuse. It is said that the two were even summoned for a talk and some of their qualifications for awards were also revoked. The two met again on the road and ignored each other. They had completely fallen out. I didn't pay much attention to what happened later, and my relationship with Owen Han gradually got back on track. Goodbye, Assertion. It was at the graduation ceremony that I casually raised my eyes and met his fixed gaze. After the ceremony ended, I waited at the spot for Owen Han to go and get the camera. Assertion walked towards me, his eyes filled with emotions I couldn't understand. How have you been recently? I raised my eyes and glanced at him, my tone polite. Great. Your studies are going well and your work is going well. The topic came to an abrupt end here and I had no intention of going back to ask politely. Assertion stood beside me without saying a word. When he saw Owen Han coming from afar, he said dryly, "That's good." After Assertion finished speaking, he lifted his foot and left. I had no idea what his final expression was, nor did I pay attention to where he was going. Instead, I waved my hand to indicate Owen Han's position. Everything is brand new and everything is moving forward. End of text.